All right, welcome to your Gravity Yoga Express class. Tonight we are stretching our hips. You'll need a chair, or you could use the edge of a coffee table, or maybe a couch, depending on the height. And for sure, two blocks. So I just have a couple of the skinny blocks here. You could use a thicker block if you want, whichever size works best for you. And then having a blanket or a pillow nearby just in case. So we're going to jump right in. Our first stretch that we're going to do is with the chair. And this is our railroad squat pose. And it's a very deep hip flexion. So we're going to jump right in and get that one done first. So to start this off, it's a little awkward, but as with any of the poses that we do, you can always adjust to what works best for your body. I would suggest first to start, maybe roll up the edge of a blanket or your mat. And for this squat, you want to keep your feet hips width apart, and the feet are going to stay parallel. Go ahead and start with your heels propped up on top of your blanket, and you're going to start to squat down. Place your hands on top of a chair. It's a very deep hip flexion. I'm going to go ahead and start the time here. So we're here for 5 minutes. So for this one, you want to make sure that your knees stay in line with your hips. They're going to have a tendency to start to draw outward like so, because it makes the pose a lot more comfortable. So check in every so often and make sure that your legs, your knees are staying parallel and they're staying in line with your hips. Feet also stay parallel and in line. You'll feel that the feet want to start to move out towards the edges like we do in a malasana squat. But for this one, it's a very narrow squat. So we want to keep everything in line with the hips. The toes in line with the knees in line with the hips. Hands can just rest on your chair or the table that you're using and allow the hips to drop down towards your ankles. Spread the fingers, just let your head drop, let the body sink deeper into the pose. Now, if you don't need to prop up your heels, you can remove the blanket, but the heels need to stay flat on the ground. This, you'll really start to feel the stretch. If you need, and I highly recommend, start sitting on a couple of blocks first. Heels are flat down on the ground, reaching forward. Knees almost come right in line or right into your armpits. Spread the fingers, let the head drop. Without the propping up of the heels, if the heels are flat down on the ground, you really start to feel the stretch into the ankles as well. All is good. We're 2 minutes already. And of course, to deepen as you're here, you can always remove a block and lower down a little bit deeper. Again, everything stays in line. So feet are parallel, toes pointing forward, knees stay in line with your hips. Again, you'll feel them. They want to draw out to the side. Make sure they're staying in line. Reaching forward with hands. Chair is basically there for moral support, for helping hold us and for our balance. And then just relax the neck, relax the shoulders, just let the head hang. Maybe close your eyes and just relax. Let the body become heavy and melt a little bit deeper into this pose. Again, you don't need the block. If you want to remove the block and let the waist or the hips drop towards your heels, that is fine as well. But you want to make sure the bottom of your feet are firmly planted on the ground. We just passed Minute number 3. We are almost there. Remember to breathe. Long, deep inhales through the nose and long, long exhales out the mouth. This is a deep hip flexion pose. For some folks, this one is very, very easy. For others of us, you might just need a little bit of encouragement. Deep breath, just over 1 more minute. Remember, our hands are just resting on the table or the chair, whatever you're using. We're not clenching onto it or forcing ourselves into this pose in any way. About 30 more seconds. Okay, with your next breath or so, slowly start to make your way out of the pose. If you want, you can just lift up off of the block and slowly roll back, seated down on the mat. All right, we're gonna move into our eagle leg fold next. So you can move the chair out of the way. And we'll set it up. And you can use your props along the way to help support the hips if we need to do that. So just try to make some space here. We'll start with the left knee on the bottom. So you're going to lay the left knee down on the ground. Knee points forward. The heel comes to the outside of the right hip. And then you're either going to go ahead and start to walk the right foot to the outside of the left hip and stack your knees one on top of the other. And if you can, feet start to point towards the back wall behind you, sneaking in another ankle stretch here. Hands can just rest on your feet or gently on top of your knees. Now, if this is too much too soon, please don't force your body into any of these shapes. You can always start slow. So maybe you start with the right foot crossed over the bottom knee, your left knee, with the right knee pointed towards the sky. This is great. As you start to feel the knee drop open, then heel toe your foot over a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and just allow gravity to gently pull the knee down towards the ground. When the muscles stretch out enough and give you the space to do so, and then just heel toe your foot over more, over more, over more, until you can get to where the knees stack one on top of the other. Now, if you do have some space in between your knees, and this is where we're going, not going to foresee going any deeper, or maybe your body's just making you think that, go ahead and prop up a blanket in between the knees or a pillow. And if you're here and you're really finding it difficult to stay upright, prop your hips up on a block or two. You can always remove the blocks as you deepen into the stretch. Relaxing your shoulders, relax, body starts to soften. Maybe you close your eyes and you breathe here. When your body is ready to deepen, or remember, we're trying to hold our stretching tension under a certain amount of time and intensity. For this one, we're doing 7 out of 10. So if the option that you're in right now, you feel yourself starting to drop to a lower intensity and you need to deepen the stretch to get to that 7 out of 10, start to remove some props. If you're where you can sit comfortably directly on the ground, heels are the outside of the hips, knees are starting to smush together, you can start to fold over. So you'll find some length through the spine and think about moving forward instead of down and leaning with the chest. So if you, maybe your hands will rest on your feet or on the ground, find that length, maybe draw the shoulders back slightly and start to hinge forward. You don't have to go far to start to feel the stretch deepen. You'll feel on the outside of your right hip here. And maybe you'll crawl forward a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. If I go this way, you guys can see a little bit better. Hinging up top and hinging forward, deepening the stretch. Maybe you come to where you can just relax your forearms down the ground, palms up. Maybe you're only slightly hinging forward. You could always place your hands on top of a couple blocks. Or maybe you're coming over enough that you want something for the forehead. You can always stack your blocks and give something for your forehead to rest on. Remember, these are just options. We just want to find the stretch. We're here about 1 more minute and then we'll switch sides and give you guys a lot more quiet time to breathe, find the stretch and relax into it a little bit more. If you fold it over slowly, lift the torso back upright. And then we're going to switch legs. So you need to, you can extend the legs long out in front of you just for a moment, maybe shake it out a couple of times. And then this time we'll lay the left knee on the bottom. And then the right knee is going to start to stack on top. That feels funny. I think it's the right knee. I'm sorry, guys. Right knee on bottom, left on top. Whichever leg you didn't do, that's what you're stacking on top. If you're coming with me, it's left on top. All right. So we've got the left foot to the outside of the right hip and the left foot to the outside, or right foot to the outside of left foot. I'm questioning my left and right now. All right. Do opposite of what you just did. Same situation, you want to get to where your legs are stacked on one on top of the other, knees smushed together, getting as close to it as you can, stopping there, relaxing there, breathing there, and letting the body deepen into the pose. If you need to prop up your hips, prop your hips up on some blocks or a blanket. And again, to deepen the stretch, you'll just find some length through the spine. And again, moving forward, leading with the chest, crawling your hands out, out, out. You're going to feel this on the outside of the left hip this time. And each side feels different. So acknowledge that one side might take a little bit longer to open up, allow you to move a little bit deeper. We're at minute number 1. Remember, you don't have to hold these for the full 5 minutes, but try to get at least 2 minutes in there. That 2 minutes will help train the nervous system and the muscles to really get used to these poses. And each time you do them, you'll be able to drop into that space of stillness and relaxing a little bit quicker so you can absorb more of the benefits from the stretch. All right, minute number 2, we got 3 more minutes to go. Remember, every so often, just scan the body, make sure that you're not engaging any muscles or intentionally holding tension anywhere. Just relax the body, let it melt towards the ground. Feel the body soften. And all that tension, that sensation, you're going to feel a lot on the outside of your left hip here, or whichever the hip of the leg that's on top. Just over 1 more minute. Deep breath. About 30 more seconds. If you're folded over, slowly, slowly, slowly lift the torso back upright. Set your blocks to the side or whatever props you were using. Unstack the knees, straighten the legs out. Maybe shake them out a couple of times. Good. And then we'll move into our next pose. It's a butterfly pose that we're going to do. We're going to use the chair. We just call this one a long butterfly. So grab your blocks and start with seated either on 2 or 1 of the blocks. Just start there. As we deepen into it, you can always lower down towards the ground. Get your chair here back in front of you, or you can use your coffee table if that worked for you last time. Sit up on 1 or 2 blocks. You're going to take the soles of your feet and start with 3 fist distance away. Start there. You're literally going to count 1, 2, 3 fist distances from the body to your heels. And then check in here. Sit up long and tall. And if you're up long and tall and the knees are still up like so, try to push your heels out maybe either to 4 or 5 fist distance away. And you can always gently guide them back in a little bit closer as you open up in this case, we're working into our adductor muscles, the muscles on the inside of our legs here. So you can always back deepen the stretch by bringing the heels back in to where I wouldn't go any closer than, I would say 3 to 5 fist distances. That would be 3 would be the closest. So get your heels, bottom or soles of the feet to touch. They are 3 fist distances away from the body. Let your knees drop open. Find some length through your spine, and you're going to hinge forward. So again, long spine, lead with your chest, hinge forward, hinge forward, hinge forward. Arms can come right on top of your chair, hands on top of the chair. If you can keep a long spine, you can scoot the chair in a little bit closer. Maybe you bring your forearms. So the idea is here with this long butterfly, we want a long torso, long spine, long neck, hinging forward and resting. You can either have the arms straight if that feels better, or maybe you come to where forearms are stacked or crossed. As you hinge forward, you're really going to feel the stretch deepen. You're going to feel that tension on the inside of your legs here. And then see if you can just relax the head down. Doesn't necessarily have to be touching the chair. Sometimes letting the chair scooch forward a little bit, just letting the head free hang is really comfy. But if you need to, you can let it rest on your forearms. Again, I'm trying to keep that straight spine. You don't need the blocks. You can always remove the blocks and hinge forward as well. Find that the blocks really give you space to deepen the stretch. But you go to where it feels good for you. Again, hovering around that 7 out of 10 intensity. Deep breaths here. Coming up on minute number 2. You can turn. Let's see. A little bit more of that hinging. Sometimes to find that length and hold it, it's nice to scoot the chair far away, reaching your arms along out over it, and then starting to melt forward. And then you can play with the distance. But go, do what works best for you. It shouldn't take much or long to really find that tension. Got about 2 more minutes. Deep breaths here. Make sure those shoulders are relaxed down and away from the ears. Long neck, long spine. Let the chest melt towards the ground. one more minute. Slowly start to lift the torso back up, right? You can move your chair out of the way, come up off of your block. Maybe extend the legs long out in front of you just to kind of break up the tension that we just needed from holding the muscles for so long in that stretch. All right, we're gonna move into one more stretch. This has been my favorite one lately. I don't know why. It's very similar to Zorro, but the focus is going to be on that medial rotation. And so we should be able to really feel it after all these other stretches that we just did. So let's go ahead and get into it, and I'll talk you through some things here. So take your feet out as wide as your hips and just allow the knees to drop to the left. The focus is going to be on this right shin. Have a couple blocks nearby just in case. Just remember. All right. I'm going to set it up here. Focus is going to be on this right shin. So you want to make sure that this right shin is in a 90-degree angle, parallel to the edge of your mat if you're using one. And then you can just bend the left knee however it feels comfortable, supported for you, to bring the bottom of your foot to touch the top of your right knee. So bring your blocks. You're going to place one to either side of the body here. Find some length and turn your torso. You're not going to turn a whole lot, but you're going to turn your torso towards the left shin. I'm going to go ahead and start the time here. Relaxing the shoulders down, drawing the shoulders back and away. You can play with flexing through the foot if that's a little bit more comfortable with for the knee, or just let it relax. You just want to take care of our joints while we're here. And for some people, this is considered a sleeper stretch. If you don't feel it, you will feel it later, I promise. Sometimes we have what are called stretching sensations, or a sensation. Well, we always have stretching sensations, but I always get into this sensation distraction there. There's a lot of words in that. But that distraction just means that you might be feeling this a lot more in another part of the body. So you might be feeling it more up higher on the hips or more in the back, and not so much. You're going to feel it eventually on the outside of this right hip going almost down. It's going to feel like it's in the knee, but it's not. You even get a little bit into that IT band stretch as well. So if you're only feeling it in other places and not feeling it where you think you should be feeling it, the stretch is still happening, I promise. And then just to kind of deepen this, you just play with the placement of your hands and making sure that you're staying in line with your right shin here. Trying to keep the spine somewhat straight. I know this one's really funky. It's really challenging our balance. It's really challenging the ability to turn that stretch reflex off, to communicate with the nervous system, with the body. It's okay to relax here. We're doing this funky shape for a reason. Of course, if you do have any knees hovering, please place a block or a blanket or a pillow underneath the knees, because this is one we don't want the knee just free hovering in the air. We need to make sure that it has contact with something, whether it's the ground or a prop that you have nearby. Again, working on that medial rotation in this right leg here. We just crossed our minute number 3. We got less than 2 minutes to go. You can also play with slightly hinging forward a little bit. Sometimes that will help you find the stretch. Obviously, I don't know that our body's gonna allow us to come all the way forward, but that's not our goal. Our goal here. But if you play with just maybe backing out of it a little bit, checking in, see how it feels in this right leg, and maybe just slight hinging forward, and see if you can find it there. And you might feel this on the outside of the left hip a little bit too, and that's fine. A little bit of that lateral external rotation happening there. Got about 30 more seconds, and then we'll switch. All right, we're going to slowly make our way out of this shape here. Lifting, okay. You start to feel it when you lift the knees up. Maybe extend your legs out on the way. Reset in here. So you're bringing your feet out just as wide, a little bit wider than your hips. And allow everything to drop over to the right. So our focus is going to be on this left shin. So the left shin is going to come parallel to the edge of your mat, forming somewhat of a 90-degree angle. And then just bend your right knee wherever it feels comfortable to bring the bottom of the right foot in contact, touching the left knee. Take your blocks, set them out to the sides here, find some length, and start to turn your torso towards the left shin. Again, if your knees are hovering, place something underneath your knees, whether it's a pillow, blanket, blocks. We just don't, for this one, we don't want the knees to be hovering. They need some contact. Again, whether it's the ground, the mat, or a prop that you might be using. To relax the shoulders down. Turning the torso towards the left shin. Then the left foot might have a slight flex through it to protect the knee joint, or the foot can just relax. And you place the blocks wherever you need to place them. That will help the body feel supported. It's not going to fall over here. Feel on the outside of our left hip here. A little bit more in those abductor muscles, the external rotators, getting into the IT band here as well. And then you might feel it in the right hip as we have our right knee, our right leg in that lateral external rotation. rotating away from the midline. So we've got one going into the midline and one going away. And again, you can play with finding a slight hinge forward. See if that does anything for your stretch, or maybe back out of a little bit. Make sure you breathe. Approaching minute number 2. We've got 3 more minutes to go. Deep breaths. Scan the body, making sure you're not purposely engaging muscles anywhere. Everything is just relaxed, gently resting on your blocks. You don't want to force the body into any of these stretches. You want the nervous system to relax and trust us as we make these choices to come into these awkward shapes. A lot going on in our hips, a lot of deep muscles as well. So got to do some really funky shapes to really get deep within those muscles and start stretching them out again. Got 1 more minute. Good. Just take a deep breath. As you exhale, slowly make your way out of this shape. And maybe extend the legs long out in front of you. Shake it out, shake it out. You can always punch above and below the knee joint. Whatever you need to do to help break up that tension that we just created, or where we held for the 5 minutes. All right, guys, that is your express stretching session. We did some hips tonight. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope to see you all again very, very soon.